My sister, the one that passed from an overdose, all she told me was such and such hit me. I said, take me to his house. And she said, Frank, I have to tell you something. And then she told me, she said, Chantel's gone. What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to the channel. I'm Frank. This is Morals Over Money. Hopefully everybody had a blessed day, a blessed week. It's Friday night. This is the first time I've done one of these sit-down videos speaking to you guys this entire week. I've been busy. The shop's been busy. Rachel worked the whole week. It was just a long, hectic week. I hope everybody's doing well. I hope everybody had a blessed week. I hope everybody be safe over the weekend. So yesterday, my nephew gave me a call, and then he ended up coming into the shop to get a haircut. This is my sister's oldest son. My sister, the one that passed from an overdose last year, right around this time. So her 1 year anniversary of her death is slowly creeping up. So out of all my siblings, this was my closest sibling. Me and her, we share the same father. We're the only one out of the siblings that we have the same father. Growing up, she was my best friend. We're 6 years apart. She was the one when I was young and I wanted to be a rapper. She was the one I'd have sit down and I'd put an instrumental on and I'd be rapping. And she'd have to listen to it 10, 15 times in a row, the same rap, the same rap. When I wanted to be a boxer, she would have to sit there and see me throw combinations and shadow box in the mirror. She was the one that I would fight with. My other siblings were too far apart in age. Her, not so much. I remember growing up, she was this little dark-skinned girl with very curly hair, chubby cheeks. Chantel. And I remember she had long hair, and my mom used to put it into a braid. And she had, those little, in Spanish they're called pinches. In English they would be, I don't know what they're called, to be honest with you. So they hold your hair, but they have two balls on them. It's not a bobby pin, but it's, it'd be like a hair tie, to be honest with you. And she had long hair down her back, and she'd get that braid, and my mom would put those two little balls on the back, at the bottom. And I would take it and I'd swing it around her head, and it'd swing around and bust her in the head, and she'd get pissed off. And that's what I would do to her. I terrorized her. You would always hear her complaining that I was bothering her. I remember one time I took a pair of vice grips. This shit is crazy. I took a pair of vice grips, right? They weren't all the way tight, so they were closed. There was a little gap in them, and I pinched her with them. And she got pissed off, and I ended up getting in trouble. And then I remember one time, we were young. I must have been, I don't know, maybe 10 years old. That would have put her about 4 or 5. My mom told her, Shan, go to sleep. It's your bedtime. We lived in the projects at this time. And I was sitting on the floor watching TV. And as she was going upstairs, and like a little kid, she was upset. She didn't want to go to sleep. It was her bedtime. My mom said, nah, go to bed. So I'm laughing at her, and I'm making fun of her. And I heard her go up, I heard her start to walk up the steps. And the next thing I knew, I was seeing stars, and my eye hurt. And then I heard her run up the stairs. I heard my mom laughing, and she sucker punched me, my sister. I was making fun of her, and she just got tired of that shit. And she said, you know what? I got something for you today. It's the wrong day. I'm going to win today. And she came behind me, punched me in the face, but her little fist went perfectly inside my eye socket, right in there. Bam! You couldn't tell me I ain't get punched by Mike Tyson. It hurt so bad. I was seeing stars. My eye was watering. I had a black eye the next week. And she was so hyped. She was so hyped. And I was pissed off initially, of course, but I found it funny. Because, it was like 1 in a million shot. Her fist fit right in there perfectly. It didn't touch the eye socket. It just went straight eyeball, and it was man down. And my mom was cracking up. All I heard was the steps. My sister going running up the steps. I remember the bond we had as kids. Like I said, she was my best friend. I was her protector. I was also her father figure. She was awesome. She was very, very, very selfless. She would give you her last. She would literally give you the shirt off her back. And she was always like that ever since a kid. And I remember being young and, when I first started dibbling, dabbling in the streets, I would buy her stuff all the time. I'd buy her clothes. I'd buy her sneakers. I'd buy her a coat. And I always try to watch over her. And I remember when I was in jail and she got her first boyfriend, she was about 15 years old. And they didn't want to tell me because I was very, very, very overprotective with all of my sisters. Matter of fact, with any of the females in my family, to be honest with you. To the point where, like I said, we're 6 years apart. And there was a time when a little boy hit my sister, and they were kids. I was 12 or 13 at the time, so they were right around 6 years old. And the little boy hit my sister. And my sister came and told me, and they were in the park, playing around. And for whatever reason, he hit her. I didn't know the reason. All she told me was such and such hit me. I said, take me to his house. I walked over there, me and my sister. And before I got there, my little cousin, him and my sister were very close also. I remember cursing him out. Because I told him, how dare you let somebody put their hands on my little sister and you don't do nothing? You're both supposed to come over here crying, if anything, because he beat both y'all up. And we went over there, and I remember knocking on the door. I forgot the kid's name. The mom answered the door. I said, such and such home? And she said, yeah, hold on a minute. She started crying, and left the park. And he probably figured, oh, shit, she's going to go tell her brother. I better go. So he went home, and when I asked the mom, yo, such and such here? She said, yeah, hold on. She called him to the door. And he seen me and my sister, and my cousin was standing off to the side. He didn't come outside of his house. He stood right there in the doorway. His mom was backed up just a little bit. And I asked my sister, I said, his name was Edwin. I remember now. His name is Edwin. So I said, yo, is that the one who hit you? And she said, yes, it is. And I slapped the dog shit out of him. I mean, the dog shit. I slapped the dog shit out of him. And mind you, I was old. I was 12, 13 years old, and they were probably 6 years old. Way too old to be putting my hands on a 6, 7-year-old. His mom was standing right there, and I just remember slapping the dog shit out of him. His mother was like, whoa, what are you doing? And I said, he hit my sister. And his mom, she didn't really say nothing. She argued with me a little bit, I remember. It was like her boyfriend or her husband was in the house, and he came to the door. But she didn't argue with me, almost like she understood. Of course, she didn't want to see me slap the shit out of her son, but she understood. It was almost like she knew you shouldn't have put your hands on a girl, on that type of tip. And I remember we argued for a little while, and I told him, don't you ever put your hand on my sister. And I grabbed my sister. We left. I cursed out my cousin again. I might have slapped him. I don't know. Probably did slap him, to be honest with you. She was so proud. She was she felt so special. And that's the way it was throughout our entire life. She always knew that I was just a call away. Sometimes she took advantage of that. Sometimes that got me into predicaments that were very dangerous, numerous times. I've went to Mexico to go pick up my sister when I was young. She was 16 years old. I was early 20s. I ended up going to Mexico to pick her up. Her and her boyfriend left and went out there to Mexico. And she called me crying, and I knew they were fighting. And they were both young, and I had kicked his ass numerous times just for, one time I caught him in her room and I kicked his ass and, just stuff like that. I was a very protective older brother. My sister, literally, she couldn't have a fight with females without me getting in. And I've always been like that with my mother, with my sisters, especially her, though. She was like my little baby. That was my sister. We shared the same father. We shared something that me and my other siblings didn't share. And I remember when she started using, it was right after my mother was killed. And we both started using right around the same time. And we eventually, used together. And I eventually, would give her drugs just to keep her from being out in the streets, being put in situations that I knew weren't the best for her. I ended up enabling her addiction. And I remember the first time that I found out that she shot up, I started crying. She was always very daring, very bold. When my nephew walked in the shop and I'm sitting there cutting his hair, all I could think about was my sister. That's all I could think about. I remember when she was pregnant with him, she was so scared. She was so nervous. She knew she wasn't ready to have a child. And I remember one of the last interactions, one of the last times we spent time with each other, which was probably a year or two before she passed. I went to Massachusetts and picked her up. And she had called me and she said, I'm ready to get clean. And she had never told me that. Those words never came out of her mouth to me, but that one time. Because once I got clean, I told her, I said, look, I'm not going to see you destroy your life. I'm not going to see you slowly kill yourself. Because when I was in jail and there was a serial killer out, his name was the Kensington Strangler. And he was preying on women in Kensington. And at this time, my sister was out there in Kensington. My biggest fear at that time was I was going to get a call and they were going to tell me that dude ended up coming across my sister and my sister is no longer with us. And when I tell you that fear was real, I literally convinced myself that she was gone already, just so when I got the call, I wouldn't be as hurt. I wouldn't be as shocked. Thank God that never happened. I don't know what. My curtain fell. You see. Maybe that's my sister giving me a sign, right? Love you, sis. Thank God that call never happened, but it changed our relationship because I had mentally and emotionally prepared myself that she was no longer going to be here because I knew sooner or later that call would come. So when I went to Massachusetts and I picked her up and I brought her to my house and she stood in the basement and I told her, she used to watch the channel and she'd get on the lives every now and then. And I told her, I said, sis, I'll do absolutely anything to help you get and stay clean and then get on your feet, but I will do absolutely nothing to contribute to your addiction. I felt that I had done way too much in the past to enable her. She was there in the first night. And I still have the videos, I'm sure, in my phone where I almost kept like a diary and I was giving updates because I had planned to show her this when she got clean. I was giving updates. I said, okay, she's been here for 12 hours. She's doing this and this and this. And I made a couple videos. 2 days after she got here, Rachel calls me and I had just went to the store or something because I knew I couldn't leave because she would be more tempted to just take off. And Rachel calls me and says, look, she's up to something. And mind you, she was going through the withdrawal. I had got her Suboxone to help. And I came home and I said, yo, what's going on? And she said, look, I can't do it. I'm leaving. And I remember when she got here and she was in the basement and I'd go check on her and I'd give her a kiss and tell her I love her and, do you need anything? She had her phone. And I remember in my head when she first got here that first day, if I would have been thinking realistically and knowing my sister and knowing addiction, in my head I said I should take that phone, but I didn't. I said, you know what? Maybe she's going to use it to watch, things on her phone. Maybe it's going to occupy her mind. But I know us as addicts, we always keep that number saved. And I told myself I should take that phone. I should take that phone. And I said, no, And then I said, all right, I should just erase everything on it, right? I should just factory reset it. I didn't. And then 2 days later, she said, look, I'm out. And I was arguing with her. And then I said, well, if that's what you want to do, so be it. I said, I'm not going to stop you. I said, you just don't reach out to me. Don't call me. Don't ask me for anything. I don't want to hear nothing about you. It was my way of showing her tough love. And then I remember when her friend picked her up and it was a guy, he pulled up to the house and I instantly shot straight out there and said, okay, whatever I'm feeling inside, whatever type of aggression or anger or disappointment that I'm feeling, he's going to feel all this. And that's exactly, I went out there. He has no idea what's coming out there. I'm sure he's seen it by the way I was approaching him. When it was all said and done, that didn't make me feel any better. I was always the type when it came to my sister to be like, I'll make things so bad for the people around her because I wouldn't put my hands on her. But I said, I'll make things so bad mad and so hot for the people around her, they'll be like, no, we don't want to deal with you because we know what comes with it. And what comes with it is your brother acting like a maniac. And that's it. It's coming up on a year that she's been gone. And I still remember the day Rachel told me. It was a Friday night. She was at work. One of my daughters came in the bedroom and gave me a kiss and a hug, and it just felt a little different. I had no idea what had happened. I think Rachel had called and said, yo, is he home? She probably said, yeah, he's in the bedroom, Mom. I'll be home. You know, his sister just passed. I believe, I don't know. I never asked Rachel if she had that conversation. But I felt that hug and that attention she gave me was a little different. And then Rachel comes home. And I remember it was about 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. I was, literally probably sleeping or fell asleep with the TV on or something. And I remember Rachel comes in the room and I was shocked because I wasn't expecting to see her. And I seen her face. She said, I have to tell you something. And I said, huh? Because I was shocked. She wasn't supposed to be home. And I heard her voice trembling, and her and my sister were very good friends. And they stood in contact over the years. And she said, Frank, I have to tell you something. And I was sort of lost and shocked. And she said, I'm so sorry. And I just remember I said, what? She said, I'm so sorry. And then she told me, she said, Chantel's gone. I heard what she said. I didn't understand what she was saying. The words didn't register. It didn't register that she was telling me that my baby sister, my best friend in the whole wide world, was dead. It sort of still don't register.
Again, sir.